Okay, so another one of these videos for this Ate, so she can stop dying all the time. All right, so for here, I had to start in the what was this, the top left on their side of the mobs because they had, I think it was like up here. Once this thing stops moving, okay, so up here they had about two parties, right? And then I checked the what was it, the bottom, their bottom left mobs, and they only had one party. So I had to start here because they had more numbers. And I actually told you to at the start to run up to the chairs on the side, and then you could have gotten a free AoE onto them because they're likely when the mobs spawn, they're probably on auto, so their character is going to end up casting the AoEs either on the mobs or maybe if they're going to manual cast, they're going to try to cast it in this area, kind of where people are standing. So if you stand over here, you can freely place your AoE onto them without taking any damage, which is what you're trying to look for when you're playing as an AoE class. You want to be able to look for angles that you can come in from and drop an AoE on them without taking any damage yourself. So you'll see later on in the video where, like with how I'm moving, and then where I tell you, you're supposed to be standing here so you can drop your AoEs. The reason why I did that is because, you can safely stand there and put AoEs onto them. You can see there's several people up there. I actually wanted you to place your AoEs over there, kind of towards the mobs and also on top of them. But we did have, there's this, like, I think it was a LK. Not really much of a concern because it's just an LK, and then all the people right here are just on auto follow. I mean, they're not really going to do much. You can see they die pretty quickly. We wanted to, like, I wanted you to put AoEs here because you also want to try to steal their mobs away from them, so that's more points for us and less points for them. But yes, here, like if you see this whole right side right here, right, it's pretty open. So you actually could have just ran up along here and then dropped AoEs on the back line, or even just on the front line. Yeah, so I mean, they just wipe pretty quickly here. I mean, you're supposed to constantly keep pushing up your AoEs because you want to be able to keep an AoE between us and them, and our objective is to push them back. So that's why you need to constantly push your AoEs forward. I think we make our way to their choke point here. So same thing, so they're all set up right here. They're throwing their AoEs forward, and most of their AoEs are right here. And so this whole area right here to the right is completely free. That you can just walk up to the side and drop an AoE on them. Um, Eventually when I get you Gambatine, you'd want to Gambatine this sink right here. But like you can see right here, I just walked over here and there's no AoEs. They're all focused on the front. And then you made the mistake of running into, there's an AoE right here. You really should have gone off to the side on the right over here along the wall. I mean, which you really need to focus on, like when you're gonna go forward and place your AoEs down, you need to be looking at the ground to make sure there's no red circles. Because imagine if we're back on N8, right? And so this is a Helios gravity. You step on that, you probably would end up dying in one shot. So you want to try to avoid their AoEs if you can. And same thing, like I'm always constantly looking off on the sides for me to be able to safely move up. And if I was still playing a wizard, I could safely, place my AoEs onto them without taking any damage. And then like right here you can see, so unlike NA, right? So when people die, you see that their names are grayed out. We actually, so I told you to push up right here. I didn't mean like just like push straight up. I wanted you to push up and to the left. Eventually in WoW, right? Or not even WoW, just like when we're fighting at a choke point like this, you want to be able to push them back. You can see that there's a gap right here. So you want to quickly push through the choke and then gain position right here on the left, so then you can start pushing your AoEs forward towards them and slowly push them back. So that way we can gain control of the choke point. I mean, so ideally, you know, when this goes cross server, we don't want to push past this because we're not going to be able to spawn camp the stronger guilds, right? So it's better to just hold the choke point because then we can just lay all of our AoEs into the choke, and you know, for them to go and get points by killing mobs, they have to push through the choke point and walk into our AoEs, which is what we want. So we don't need to be pushing past that choke point over there. But you know, right now, like we're just trying to teach you how to be aggressive and how to place your AoEs without taking, like, see right there, you're standing on a grab field, so you're taking damage, right? You want to try to avoid taking damage if you can. Because I mean, like right now, like the damage doesn't hurt, but once this goes cross server, right, they probably will be either just as geared or even, you know, more wailed out and geared than us. So standing on their AoEs could possibly kill you pretty quickly. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is dying. So right here, I mean, yeah, you're just placing gravities. So you should also place quagmires as well. I mean, place about one quagmire about, you know, kind of where they spawn, and then place two of them a little slightly further back. Just, you know, you'll see later on that they start to leak out from the spawn point. And so if you place them a little bit further back, it should be able to slow them, so it's easier to catch them either with a lightning bolt, or you can also use, I think I put Napalm Vulcan on your second skill bar. And so if you use that, you can spam it and it will slow them from the curse, so then it's easier for you to chase them down and pick them off. Or, you know, if we have people, like, you know, say this is at a choke point, they get past the choke point, we should have players, like melee players in the back line to chase after people who leak through. So if you can slow them with the Napalm Vulcan, or they get slowed by your Quagmires, that will be helpful for them to catch up, because you know they are melee. Unless they use, I think it's like Killer Mantis card that has a charge attack that will allow them to kind of jump onto them. So I mean, same thing here. I had us, the reason why I had you push here, because you can see, like, there was no, you can freely stand here and cast AoEs onto them without taking any damage, because they're not throwing AoEs in the back over here. Usually, you know, most players are, you know, if they're on auto, they are just casting forward. So you're free to just go off on the side and cast AoEs from here without taking any damage. And I mean, pretty much the rest of this video is just, you know, spawn camping them, so it's like nothing really interesting, but the main focus from this is to constantly, you know, so say there's enemies right here. You constantly want to try to look for angles from the side for where you can, you know, safely stand and drop an AoE onto them. And not only that, so also when you're dropping AoEs, right, you shouldn't be stationary. Like, as soon as you drop your grab field, you should constantly move back. The reason why you want to move back is because, so if somebody, say there's an enemy right here, they see you standing right there, they're going to drop their AoE where you were standing. But if you move back, you put yourself outside of their skill range and you're not going to take any damage from their AoEs. So you need to constantly, when you're, you know, if you look at my WoW videos, right, I'm constantly moving forward and back, kind of weaving in and out. And that's the reason why I do that, is so I don't take any damage from their AoEs if they do end up placing an AoE where I was previously standing. And also another thing, I think I say it somewhere over here. When you push forward, you should always use energy coat if it's off cooldown. And the reason why you got to do that is because, you know, it gives you that damage reduction. So if you're going forward and, like, if you take a little bit of that damage while you're casting your skills, right, it's at least going to reduce some of the damage that you do end up taking. So you need to constantly, whenever energy coat's off cooldown and you're going to push forward to place an AoE, you should also use energy coat as well. Eventually I will put elemental resist on your skill bar. That one's not really, it's only useful for Denel pets because, you know, they deal fire damage. And we're not really going to need that unless we're trying to push through a choke point, or if, say we're defending a choke point and they're trying to dive us with somebody that has like a decked out Donnell. Was it Fusion people used to try to do that? They'll try to dive on our front line, and then, that gets in WoW, right? So they'll use Rosary, dive our front line, and then try to wipe our stack with a Donnell Blast, but it would never work. I don't even remember where was I going with that. But yeah, those are the only times you'd kind of use elemental resist right now. Eventually, when Sage comes out, if you know a Sage is targeting you, that's another situation when you would use elemental resist. I mean, if this was map 1 on 40v40, you would use elemental resist right at the start, just in case they might have Donnells to blast us. That will try to. That's gonna help us hopefully survive it. I mean, I don't even. I mean, I think Fusion players, at least Helios, I believe he had a 10 tier Donnell. Usually I didn't die from his Donnell though. It's always his Minotaur. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm supposed to be focusing on work. Um, what else? I don't think there's anything else to really cover. I mean, we shouldn't be doing this later for cross server. We should be back there by the choke, holding the choke point. Um, we'll see later on if people fix this habit right here of just spawn camping them, because this isn't something we're gonna be able to do later on against the stronger guilds, and I'm really hoping people aren't gonna get in the habit of this. Like they think they can just run up in the spawn camp people, because that's not gonna happen later on. I don't think there's anything else to really discuss. I mean, this whole video is mainly focusing on how to push your AoEs forward and be a little aggressive. Eventually, we fight guilds that are just as strong as us, right? And so we're not going to be able to just push them easily like this. It's going to be kind of like maybe it'd be like a stagnant fight. Let me see if I can find it. Like it might be kind of stagnant right there. And so you're pretty much going to have to you're going to have to look for openings for you to be able to cast AoEs onto them safely from the side. So that's the main thing you need to focus on, is constantly looking for angles off to the side so you can place AoEs down. That's pretty much it. Also just using your energy coat whenever it's off cooldown. Eventually, throwing Quagmires once I level those up. I think right now it's only level 5, which is like maybe a 25-second duration. I don't know, it's pretty short, so it doesn't really last too long. But I think that should be it, hopefully. Well, if you can focus on doing those things for next game, you'll spend less time dead, and less time of stuff like this happening, getting teabagged, because nobody wants to be teabagged, am I right? Look at that, like that. Shouldn't be dead right here. But anyways, that should be it for this video. I don't know what we'll focus on for next one, unless, I mean, because there's no competition on this server right now, so it's hard to really practice defending if we don't have someone strong enough to to practice against. But we'll see.